Hey everyone, glad you're here. I want to share a short story that changed the way I think about problems. It's about a child who believed his troubles were too big to handle, until a quiet moment by the water taught him something small but powerful. Stick with me for the next 20 minutes and you'll walk away with one simple idea that actually works. Have you ever had one little thing go wrong and suddenly your whole day felt ruined? One small setback that turns into this huge, heavy cloud in your head? That's how our story begins. The child in it, his name is Rohan, lived in a tiny village surrounded by fields and narrow dirt roads. Everyone knew one another's names and the days moved slowly, like the shadows across the paddy fields. Rohan was clever and curious, but he had a tendency to worry. If the sun felt too hot, he'd complain that nothing could get done in such weather. If the teacher assigned extra homework, he'd say it was impossible. If his mother asked him to fetch water, he'd mutter that everything was too hard for him. Small things felt like mountains. People tried to help at first. Friends offered distraction, neighbors offered advice, teachers offered encouragement. But complaining is exhausting to hear. Over time, people stopped inviting him to play. They stopped asking how he was. The more alone he felt, the louder his worries became. One evening, Rohan's father walked him out of the village. "Come with me," he said softly. They walked until fields opened into a space where two bodies of water lived near each other, a small, still pond and a wide, flowing river. His father knelt by the pond, pulled out a small pinch of salt, and dropped it into the water. "Taste it," his father told him. Rohan cupped his hands and drank. The water tasted bitter, unpleasant. He spat it out and said, "It's salty, it's horrible." They walked to the river, and his father dropped the same amount of salt into the moving water. Rohan cupped his hands and drank again. He couldn't taste the salt at all. It seemed fresh, clean, unchanged. His father looked at him and said, "Problems are like salt. The amount of salt stays the same, but whether you taste it depends on the size of the water. If your heart is a small pond, every pinch makes it bitter. If your heart is a river, the same trouble passes through you and doesn't make you bitter." That lesson hit Rohan in a simple, unforgettable way. He saw that the unpleasantness he felt didn't always come from the problem itself, but from how much space he gave that trouble inside his mind. He couldn't take the trouble away, but he could grow. The next morning, Rohan tried something different. When the teacher handed him extra homework, instead of crying, "I can't," he thought, "This is a chance to get better." When his mother asked him to carry water, he didn't complain. He told himself he would get stronger. At first, the old habit of fretting pulled him back. It's hard to change the place your mind first goes. But each time he remembered the river and the pond, he caught himself, and he chose a different response. Weeks passed. The change wasn't dramatic all at once. It was small and steady, answering calmly instead of snapping, taking a breath instead of flaring up, trying first and blaming later. His friends noticed. People started inviting him again. His teacher praised his new steadiness. His parents smiled more often. Here's the real point: the same storms came. Exams still happened. Chores still piled up. The difference was that Rohan no longer drowned in those problems. He learned to hold them without letting them crush him. Instead of being consumed, he moved through them. Why does this work? Because so many of our troubles are about scale and attention. A pebble that you stare at for hours can feel like a boulder. A worry you keep repeating becomes bigger simply because you fuel it with thought. When you expand the space inside you, when you become more patient, more resilient, more accepting, that same pebble is easier to carry. There are practical ways to become more river-like. Here are a few that helped Rohan, and that can help you. 1. Pause and name the feeling. The moment you feel a spike of worry, pause. Say to yourself, "This is worry," or "This is frustration." Naming it takes some of its power away. It's like stepping back from a painting to see the whole picture instead of obsessing over one brush stroke. 2. Breathe to widen the moment. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. It's not a magic fix, but it opens a small space between stimulus and reaction. That space is where you choose how big you'll let the problem feel. 3. Reframe the challenge. Ask, "What could this teach me?" or "Will this matter in a year?" Not every hard thing has a profound lesson, but many do. Reframing turns obstacles into opportunities to grow. 4. Do one small action. When a problem feels overwhelming, break it into tiny steps. Action dissolves fear. Start with a single, doable move and build momentum from there. 5. Practice gratitude alongside struggle. It's not about ignoring hardship. It's about recognizing that not everything is terrible. Finding small things you're thankful for enlarges your heart. The river gets wider, the salt becomes less noticeable. Rohan practiced these. He would tell himself, "Name it, breathe, do one thing." Over time, those small habits made him steadier. He didn't stop feeling, he learned to feel differently. Now you might be thinking, does that mean I'm just supposed to accept everything and be passive? And no, growing your heart isn't about being a doormat. It's about gaining the capacity to respond rather than react. It's about solving problems without letting them ruin your inner calm. It's also about choosing where to spend your energy. Not every battle deserves your full force. There's another thing to remember. Growth takes time. Rohan slipped up. He had days where he was the old pond again, snapping, small, bitter. But each time he noticed the old pattern, he had a chance to return to the river. Progress rarely looks like a straight line. It looks like a spiral. You take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, then another step forward. Keep going. Let me give you a quick example from adult life. Say you lose a job. If your inner pond says, "This is a disaster, I'm doomed," you'll taste the salt until bitterness takes over. If your inner river says, "This is hard, what can I learn? What new door could this open?" You keep moving. You network, you retool, you try. The problem doesn't vanish, but your capacity to meet it grows. Another example, conflict with a friend or partner. When you feel attacked, pond mode wants to strike back immediately. River mode breathes, listens, and responds with curiosity. The conflict may remain, but the space for resolution widens. So how do you start being the river today? Pick one small practice and try it for a week. Maybe it's naming emotions. Maybe it's breathing before responding. Maybe it's writing 1 line each night about something that went well. Small repetitions build a larger heart. You don't need to make a grand promise to never worry again. That's unrealistic. Instead, make a steady commitment to notice. Notice when you're shrinking, and then intentionally widen. Train the habit of curiosity over complaint. Train action over avoidance. As Rohan grew, he also started helping others. Friends who were overwhelmed would come to him, and he would sit quietly and remind them of the river and the pond. He didn't preach, he offered perspective. Sometimes that's what people need, someone who's calm enough to hold their worry without adding to it. Before I close, I want to give you a simple phrase to carry with you, grow the river. Say it when you feel a pinch of bitterness. It's a small reminder to expand your heart, breathe, and choose a different response. Life will bring challenges, and that won't change. Some days will be heavy, some nights will be long. But remember this, problems don't always shrink. We grow, and when we grow, the same trouble becomes smaller inside us. So next time you're faced with something difficult, ask yourself, am I being the pond or the river? Then take 1 breath, name the feeling, and choose to be the river. Thanks for listening. If this story helped you even a little, share it with someone who might need a reminder to grow their river. I'll see you next time.